Well, I definitely did not expect to be back so fast and before the surgery, but there was something interesting that I just needed to talk about. I went today for my final tests before the surgery. I had my MRI and I had my CAT scan. And I was really dreading the MRI because I'm claustrophobic. I did a dedicated video on it years ago that has many thousands of views on it. So clearly there are a number of people who suffer from the same thing. And I just wanted to kind of update that. And I also wanted to update something else that, just an observation that I made while I was there today. The last couple of days, I have not been feeling great. I've been working really hard, getting a lot of things done, and it's not been a really phenomenal time for me. So I've got a lot on my mind, and clearly I did get my time. I'm going in, have to be at the hospital at 5:20 a.m. tomorrow, which is pretty much what I expected. And so that means I'll leave here probably at about 4:30, maybe a little bit later. I don't think it's going to take an hour in the middle of the night, but so I was at that stage. More than the surgery itself, I was actually dreading this MRI. It's been a long time since I've had one. I've had a number of them since that one that I was afraid that I couldn't do. And I want to share as an update what my experience was today. So if you have any interest in it, stick around. If not, I'll see you post-surgery, hopefully. In either case, I'm glad you came by. This was filmed the day before surgery. I had to go for my final test before surgery today, and the first test was the MRI. I had to be there at 9:45 in the morning, and in good traffic. It takes about a half hour to get there. So we wanted to make sure that we got there on time, and we sat in the car and went. Now, I made a discovery years ago. I was terrified of having an MRI the first time I had to have it, to the point where I really couldn't do it at the first machine that they used, and I wound up being lucky enough for the more open bore or wide bore machine became available while I was there, so I was able to go through with it. You can find that old video of mine. I will link it if anybody wants to take a look at that. But I wanted to share this again for people who have to go through this, or for people who are not sure if they could do it, that you can. If I can do it, you definitely can do it. I think, the fear of the unknown is the worst thing there is. My father always used to quote, I think it was Franklin Roosevelt, who said, "We have nothing to fear but fear itself." And I think so much of what we're afraid of never comes to pass or never turns to be the dread thing that we expect it to be. So it's important to kind of let yourself go through experiences. I'll give you what has made it easier for me. Now when I have to have a CAT scan done, I get, I do take an alprazolam. I take the lowest dose. It is 0.25 milligrams. And I take it about a half hour before the scheduled scan. I do have another one along with me in case I need it. So far, I have never needed more than one. And I have only taken maybe 6 of those pills in my entire life. So I have no fear of becoming addicted, because apparently they are very addictive, and it is a controlled substance. So they want to be really, really cautious with dispensing it. But I find if I take that, by the time I get in there, and I still let them know that I have a fear of it, that I am claustrophobic, and that anything that they can do to make it easier for me would be greatly appreciated. So what they did for me today was they had me, they asked me if I wanted to listen to music, and I said, yeah, why not? So I had them play Engelbert Humperdinck, and they gave me the earphones. At first they put earplugs in, so I guess so you don't get deafened by the sound. And after that, they put in the earphones so that I was able to listen to the music. They had the music on very low. She asked me if I could hear it, and I said yes. I couldn't hear it well, but it was just enough to take the edge off, because she also told me that I would be able to hear them through it. Now, when I went in, I had to laugh, because they have that squeeze ball in case you have a panic attack or you have an urgent need for them to stop for any reason. You have some control, which for a lot of us makes a huge difference, having control. So they told me to test it, and I squeezed the thing, and sure enough, it did. They did hear it. I heard it too, but not well, because my ears were packed with stuff. But I did hear it, and it didn't work. So then they slid me into the machine to get started, and lo and behold, within 2 minutes of being slid in, the bulb of the thing that you squeeze came loose from the connection, which meant I would be squeezing the ball for my own entertainment, because nobody was going to hear it. So I said, no, you have to stop. So they did stop. They reconnected that thing. They then started me again. I also asked them about how long the scan would take, and they told me originally they anticipated that it would take about 20 minutes. When they started my scan, the doctor had added another element to the scan. So she told me it was going to take about an extra 10 minutes. I was a little unnerved by it, but I said, fine. And I did something that people have been talking about for years that I had never done before. If you're having an MRI done and you have claustrophobia, or you are going to be frightened about it for any reason, close your eyes. It's a very, very simple thing, but I had never done it before. I'm one of those people who has to be in control of my world, and I also need to know what's going on, so I tend to leave my eyes open. By closing my eyes before I went in, I didn't know how close the machine was to me, and it made it much less stressful. I didn't need a washcloth. I didn't need a mask. I didn't need anything other than to close my eyes. She then started to do the scan, and she did tell me after the first couple, she told me that she was done with one portion of it and she was going to be starting on the second, and she told me that I was doing great, and we continued like that all along. I know by now, because I've had so many, that it is a series of picture taking, and they are scanning different areas, and they're doing it in a sequence. So I knew by when the sounds came about that I would need to be totally still, and that once we got through that part of the scan was over. And then they would be doing the setup for the next one. And that was perfectly fine. It really wound up being so not stressful for me, so almost relaxed, that when it was over, and when she told me that they were doing the last part of it, because I had it without and then with contrast. So when they did the last part, she told me that was it, and then we would be done. And I said, oh, that's great. When they finished, I said to her, how long did that take? And she said about 40 minutes. And I said, really? It felt like about 10. So it was that much better than I expected it to be. You can do it. You can absolutely do it. If I did it, you can do it. Now, the second part of this, I wanted to talk about, I had the 2 scans today. I had to have the MRI and then a CAT scan for my surgery tomorrow. So I had to go back into the waiting room and wait for them to call me for the CT scan. The room was full. I mean, it's a small room because it's the women's changing room, but they had to be, I think it was at least 6 or 7 women sitting there. And the interesting thing was you could see, if you looked at it, you could really get a good feeling about where these people were, how the thoughts that they were having. I had the feeling at one point, if we could all hear each other's thoughts, there would be cacophonous sound in that space because people were going through their own things. And there's a great lesson in that, because in everything that we do in life and in everything we have to face in life, we're each going through our own things. And that was a room of 6 or 7 separated women who were in their own space, feeling isolated in a room filled with people. There were 2 women there playing on their phones. And I turned to one of them and I said, what would we do without our telephones? Which started a whole conversation. And the conversation wound up involving everybody in the room. And suddenly it seemed to feel less stressed in the entire room because people were interacting with each other. And that's my point. Sometimes you have no idea what somebody else is going through. But if you can just do something to try to interact with them, it can help them and it can help you just as much. So just a quick thought for today, and it really meant a great deal to me, so I wanted to share it with you. So I'm done now. There's nothing left I have to do other than take my 2 Hibiclens showers and go into the hospital in the wee hours of the morning, which is a good thing because going into Manhattan in the wee hours of the morning is far easier than going into Manhattan any other time of the day. So by this time tomorrow, hopefully I'll be finished with my surgery or close to, and hopefully everything will go well. I am going to have David let a number of people know, and he's going to keep them apprised of what's going on. And Sandy has agreed to kind of share information about what's happening with me. And as soon as I am lucid or able to talk or functional on any level, I will try to come back and update you on some level. I do remember I had a great deal of difficulty in the hospital getting a signal, so that could be an issue. But I'll do whatever I am able to do. If I can't do it, I will text. If I can't do it, I'll text Sandy and let her know that I cannot do it, but as soon as I'm able, I will do it. So hang in there for it. I'm going to have it coming back at you, hopefully, with my new and improved body, hopefully, and we'll take it from there. That's it for today. Have a great day. This was another thing that made me laugh. After the technician had gotten started doing the MRI, she came into the room looking concerned. And she said to me, "Do you have any kind of metal on you?" I had taken off most of my clothes and I was wearing a robe. All I had on were my panties. So she said, "Do you have any metal in there?" And I said, "I don't think so, but let's look." And I must say, when I went into the room, she did say to me, "What's in your pocket?" Because when I first came in and I mentioned to the first person I spoke to that I was claustrophobic, she suggested that I bring the extra pills into the room just in case I needed to take another one. and that I could let them know and I would have it right there. So I had put it in my pocket. So I had taken out the pills, and I had one other thing in my pocket. I don't remember what it was. Wasn't my phone. I don't remember. I had a second thing in my pocket, and that was it. But when she came in after the first set of, the first series that she had done, she did look concerned. So when we looked, my panties were fine. In my pocket, on the other hand, were my Harry Potter glasses. So I accidentally had left that in my pocket, and the reason I had kept them was that I didn't know how long I'd be waiting, and I thought I might want to look at something, or I might have some need for them. So she had to start again and gave me this kind of look as if that was not cool. So it added a little bit of levity to the start of the process. I think I'm starting to look a little bit tired. I've got a whole lot of last minute stuff to do, and I still need to pack. That's my story.